Well, good evening, Top fans. It's Bill from Top Fan Rivalry here, back in the Clubhouse for another version of Top Fan Rivalry Clubhouse with some of my good friends, both Jackson and Ned Westfall. We're coming to you live tonight. We got a lot to talk about as far as trades are concerned. A big trade just went down. I'm going to let Jackson tell us all about that here in a second. And we had a bunch of different moves that we'll talk about and talk about a couple of things that are coming up with baseball. So I'm glad you're joining us. We'll talk more about how you can see more of these videos. So we'll take it from there. Let's start out. Jackson, do you want to tell us about the trade? Why don't you lead us off with what just happened like an hour ago?
Joe Musgrove to the Padres. The Mets get Joey Lucchesi, who's a decent lefty.
Mm-hmm.
The Pirates get a bunch of classic Pirates moves, just a bunch of Class A prospects. Shedding that salary. Oh, boy. Poor Pittsburgh. I feel bad. I feel bad for Pittsburgh sometimes.
So my cousin married a guy from just outside of Pittsburgh. He's a huge Pirates fan, and he wrote one of the articles about the Bucks. And I was talking to him over Thanksgiving time when we were out there and visiting with him, and he was just like, "I don't know what we're doing. Don't worry, we are family. It was your best team back in '79, right?"
I mean, they did get like 5 prospects, so maybe one of them will pan out. I hope so for the Pirates. They have one of the best uniforms in the MLB. One of the nicest ballparks. So when the Pirates are good, I think everyone's happy, except for the Cubs fans.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Dad, what have you been seeing around the league? Have you been following any of the signings for the Angels or anything going around the league?
Well, I thought that it was interesting that the Angels actually picked up Kurt Suzuki. I thought that was a good veteran pickup, and he's a veteran guy, Orange County guy. He played his ball at Cal State Fullerton. Go Titans.
I graduated.
Yep, me too. And it's a good pickup. And I think he's a guy that can actually kind of help that pitching staff a little bit if you really look at it. Because if you look at the catchers the Angels have had over the last, let's say, 10 years. I mean, really the only guy I think that was a good receiver was Chris Iannetta, but then they ended up, getting rid of him. But I think what Suzuki's going to do, because, Jackson, I know Suzuki from when he played with the Braves in 2018, right, Jackson?
Yeah.
He was great with that pitching staff. And I think that was one of the reasons that got them to the playoffs. He'll provide a little bit of pop, in the lineup, but it's really like we talked about last week with these managers. It's really about how you use your people in your lineups and stuff like that. So, that was an interesting signing to me. But I think it's good. It's probably a good ambassador move for the Angels as well to go get kind of this local homegrown guy, and just kind of really kind of pump him up in the community. I think will do a lot for, the team here in Orange County. But, Kurt Suzuki is just, he's been on some winning ball clubs. He was with the Washington Nationals in 2019. He was, when they won it all. He was with Oakland when Oakland was making their run in the Western Division. So I think that was a good pickup for the Angels, and he follows Manassian had him when Manassian was the assistant GM with Atlanta back in 2018. So I think there's that connection there. So it got me thinking today a little bit about, how much more is he going to go out and really kind of, pick and choose from guys that have played within the Braves organization. I don't know, but it was a good pickup for the Angels. I think if you're an Angels fan, you got to be happy with that. Now you've got a nice name of a guy that you've heard of that's behind the plate, not somebody with a name like no offense to Anthony Benboom, but Anthony Benboom, right? Anyway. But the one thing we haven't talked about, interesting, with the Angels, their play-by-play guy on Fox Sports West, Victor Rojas. This guy actually applied for the GM position for the Angels. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I read an article last week. Yeah, so he applied and he didn't get it, but he ended up getting a minor league gig for a team in Texas. I think their names are called the Rough Riders, but he's going to be a GM for this
Oh.
minor league team. So there's going to be a hole to fill in the broadcast booth. So, maybe I could use my good old Cal State Fullerton degree and walk over to the Angels and say, hey, listen, look, I can call a few games behind the mic, but no, anyway. Yeah, but no, that's interesting too, because, because they're the local team and so are the Dodgers, but the team that I like to watch in the area, we like to watch the Angels when they're on, and he was so good behind the microphone. So now the question is, who are they going to go out and get? But that's a topic for another day that we'll speak about. But it's I thought that was kind of an interesting move too, something that was kind of out of the ordinary a little bit, because when I read through kind of the Victor Rojas's bio, he was a player, he was a bullpen coach. All this kind of stuff, and he's done a whole lot of things, but I think the Angels broadcast gig was his biggest thing that he's ever done for longevity. So it was just, for me, I just thought it was kind of interesting. I thought I'd throw that out there because not only the players that are moving, it's also too the people within the organizations. So
I've
hey,
watched
Jackson, what jersey you got on tonight there, buddy?
I got my Ronald Acuna jersey on.
Okay.
There you go.
I just wanted to make sure the Bill saw that, so Bill can have nightmares about Acuna coming up for 2020.
But did you hear that? Who is it? Who did I read about? Was it Osuna? Is thinking about coming to the Dodgers if they have the universal DH this month or this year.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm like, all right, well, just another bat to add to Mookie and to Cody. I'm like, if you're a pitcher, you're going, where do I want to pitch? Right? I mean, who's this guy? So that's interesting that you mentioned behind the mic and a few other things, because baseball is kind of going through what I will call maybe not a reboot, but a massive change with the COVID. And you're seeing a lot of different, teams are looking at it and saying, hey, we can't put fans in the stands. We can't afford to go after these, $30 million 1-year deals. We got to tone it down a bit. And so you're seeing what players are really worth. Some of these guys willing to play for a couple million a year for one season or two seasons and then bust into it. So we'll see what happens. But I've been watching some of the fan favorites for the Dodgers. It looks like Jock Peterson may be either a National or a Brewer, which scares me if we put him over there in Brewer territory. And nobody's after JT. I don't know if there's something going on with Justin where he just is trying to play hardball with the Dodgers, but Marcus Semien is at his heels saying, I'll take the job. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot going on in baseball right now where players are looking for these big contracts and owners are looking at them and saying, we just can't do it right now. It just doesn't make sense for us. And I've always thought that maybe, Jackson, you're a student of history, and Ned, as are you. These guys used to have to be shoe salesmen and things like that in the off season in order to make a living because they weren't making it playing baseball. Now, the league minimum is more than what most people make in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's your Babe Ruth. Then you find other people to play baseball against and get paid for it and get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm interested to see. So the Padres. Let's talk about none of us are diehard Padre fans, but let's talk about the Padres for a second and all these moves that they're making. Are they good moves where they're going to gel in the clubhouse, or are they just trying to buy a championship like some other teams have in the past? What do you guys think?
I think that they're actually making some really kind of like educated moves. I think Joe Musgrove's a good pickup for the back end of the rotation. Mm-hmm. They didn't really give up a lot for him. They have almost all their top 10 prospects still, even after all that flurry of trading, which is good for a young contending team. They don't need to retain some of their veteran guys that make some more money, in this climate where teams don't have a lot of money. So I think, and I heard they're trying to re-sign Turks and Profar to get that utility spot shored up. So I think the Padres are going to be good this upcoming year. If Mike Clevenger comes back healthy, they might be really dangerous in 2022 with a pretty scary rotation. solid bullpen, a good lineup.
What do you think, Ned?
It's whenever you're trying to knock off the top dog, and that's what the Padres are trying to do. They're trying to knock off the top dog, the Dodgers that have won, 7 consecutive Western Division championships. I mean, that's really what so I think they're positioning themselves. And I've always said this about teams and divisions. You got to be able to beat the team and the teams in your own division. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to win your division. And I think that's what they're trying to do. So maybe they have some information in regards to some of these players. Maybe they perform better against the Dodger team. I don't know. I haven't dug too much deep into that, but definitely what it's going to do is it's going to throw some excitement back into the Padres baseball again. They got a great mix of young guys, young star players like Tatis Jr. That kid is something else, and even though I don't really like Manny Machado, he's a good player. I don't like his attitude, but he can hit and he can field a little bit, and so they've done a lot of good moves where I think they're going to compete. They're going to compete with the Dodgers this year. It's really going to be the head-to-head. If they end up losing 13 out of 19 against them, forget it. But if they play the Dodgers pretty fair and win 10 or 11 against the Dodgers out of the 19 that they play, then I think they got a shot because you've got 2 doormats between Arizona and Colorado in the division. They could end up winning a few games against them, but they're going out and getting pitching, which is what the Angels aren't doing. And I saw the move today about John Lester. I'm like, okay, John Lester to the Nationals. Why couldn't the Angels have made that deal? So, Bill, maybe it's back to your point about the whole financial aspect of everything. That maybe Moreno doesn't want to go out and spend the money right now. Maybe he's fine with the arms he's got. But it's going to be an exciting season, I think, in the NL West because it's going to definitely be a 2-team horse race, and it'll be fun to watch. So hopefully we'll be able to go down and see a game or two down there this upcoming season, but we'll see.
Let's hope so. Ned, I totally agree with you. I've been saying this for years. The way that baseball is set up now, it's a lot different than it was in the 80s where, you didn't play your division as much as you do, but now you play your division, each team in your division, like 18 times or some ridiculous thing like that. You could play 500 baseball against the interleague squads and in this case, the National League West can play. The Dodgers can play 500 baseball against the Central and the East in the interleague games, but play 700 baseball in their own division and win their division handily. Yeah. It's just the way that because you play so many games and Arizona hasn't done themselves any favors. The Rockies are a unique team because of where they play. They just may get lucky in a 3-game homestand and take 2 out of 3 from me just because the ball flies out of there, right? But for the most part, it's a divisional thing. I couldn't agree with you more, Ned. And honestly, the Lester thing, that's the first thing I thought of too. Is I'm like, why couldn't the Angels get this guy for 1 year?
Yeah,
right. I mean, the guy signed a 1-year deal with the Washington Nationals, who arguably they're not going to field a team that's going to be competitive because the Braves and dare I say the Mets are trying to make their move again. I mean, Washington's probably going to come in 3rd place. Right. And so
because of what you just said, because they have to play Atlanta 19 times and the Mets 19 times. Right. Mm-hmm. And the only way that they would be able to compete with, they would have to beat, both of those teams, 12 or 13 times out of the 19 times that they play them. That's very, very hard to do. Very hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And, I think it was in Joe Torre's book that he wrote a number of years ago. I think it was called the Yankee Years or something like that. He said, we won more games because people were afraid of the name on the front of the jersey and the history of its success than we did by talent, which, makes sense. When Jeter's coming into town with Bernie Williams and Tino Martinez, all these guys are incredibly talented. But when you got back-to-back World Series championships and you got people like Joey D and other guys, people just are afraid of that jersey. Well, the Braves have had a number of successes, and the Mets, they play in New York, right? So everybody gets afraid of, Gotham City, so to speak. So let's just see what happens. I mean, it's crazy, but I'm surprised. I like the Kurt Suzuki signing. I do. I like the local boy thing, but go out and get some freaking pitching. You got to get something because the A's are always going to be good, regardless if they have the talent or not. The A's are always going to be good. Who knows how Texas is going to be, and the Asterisks are always going to try to fill the team too. And again, even though the Asterisks don't have the talent, right? They're losing some of their talented guys. It's the name on the front of the jersey, and it's what they've done for the last 3 or 4 years. That again, if the Astros come in to play the Braves, they may not have the talent. They may not match up to you guys. But listen, these guys have been in the World Series 2 out of the last 4 years. Like, you're paying attention, right? It's just that success level. It's just that paying attention mode. So I wish the Angels would make some moves. I don't know what Artie's doing, and I mean, maybe that's Ned. Maybe you should apply for that job.
Well,
right. See if you can buy Artie's thing. Right. Jackson will be your GM, and I'll just get behind the mic. How's that?
hey, fair enough. That works for me.
So I'll be the first guy that's the announcer that's cheering for the Dodgers when the Angels and Dodgers are playing, but I'm getting paid by the Angels. That seems fair, right? That seems fair.
Just don't forget to miss the exit when you drive up the 5 freeway. Okay.
I will. I will. So the Trevor Bauer sweepstakes is still going on, and I was just looking up some stuff on Trevor Bauer yesterday just because I knew this was coming up, right? And there is a clip of him, and I didn't realize that he did this, but he was an Indian at the time, and he was playing against the Pirates, and he was batting, and he ended up having like a 12-pitch at bat, fouling off a bunch of pitches, but imitating 3 of his teammates in the way that they bat, and it was hilarious. And he ended up working a walk. So if you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth the watch. It's a Trevor Bauer instant classic from a couple of seasons ago.
A note on the Trevor Bauer sweepstakes. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, just because the trade rumors floating around. I heard the Pirates are looking to move some of their pitchers like Jamison Talion. I heard Sonny Gray's on the trading block, and apparently Luis Castillo is also on the trading block for Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the big false rumors of the week, that he was heading to New York to play for the Yankees. That rumor was debunked.
Well, Corey Kluber going to the Yankees. I mean, what, I heard of that, and I'm like, how fair is that? How fair is that for any team, right? I know the guy hasn't pitched in 2 years, but he's got 2 Cy Youngs,
Yeah.
But I guess they could give him what he wanted. So.
Well, the Yankees are trying to get under, the last I read, they're trying to get under the luxury tax. And so what that's been the big problem with the DJ LeMahieu signing is he wants a certain dollar amount, and the Yankees are like, can we give it to you in incentives? Can we give it to you in potential, bonuses so that they're under that luxury tax? Because, I mean, again, no fans in the stands, right? So what can you do at that point? I have always, Ned, you brought up a good point a couple of minutes ago. I, as a Dodger fan, always get frustrated when the Rockies come into town, because the Rockies could be 3-82, and those 3 wins are against the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. And they should be, they're the proverbial team that should be beat, but they're not. And so the Pirates, maybe the Nationals, but the Diamondbacks, all these teams are just playing as spoilers. And what happens when they go in and beat our teams? What do you do then, right?
Yeah.
So, what other exciting things, Jackson? What other exciting things have you noticed this week that have happened in the MLB world?
I mean, exciting. I haven't really heard anything exciting other than George Springer wants like a $200 million contract between 150 $200 million.
Yeah.
But I just think free agency is really weird and really crazy this year because these guys want to be paid like a normal season and the teams are just not really biting. And I actually heard a rumor yesterday that the Dodgers might be able to pay Trevor Bauer's salary because they might do what they tried to do to Bryce Harper a couple of years ago and just give him $40 million a year for 3 years.
Yeah.
They can. They're one of the few teams in the MLB that can just throw their money around and not really worry about it.
Yeah, and the Trevor Bauer signing for the Dodgers, if that happened, I like it because he's a decent proven pitcher, but as been mentioned before, first of all, he hasn't proven himself year over year. But second of all, and more importantly, you've got young guys like Walker Buehler and Dustin May that need to progress, and Julio Urias that need to progress. And if you sign a top key guy like Bauer, although it's a good signing, then you end up having Bauer and Kershaw and Bueller at the top of your rotation, and then Urias. And what else do you have at that point, right? Dustin May's the odd man out. You don't get to progress guys, and you're paying an awful lot of money for a guy that's had a couple of good seasons.
Well, that's an interesting thing to note too. That like a lot of people just think like the big teams, like the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers, should go out just get as many big star names as possible. There's a certain point where like it doesn't really help your win total that much.
Yeah.
To the amount of money you're paying, and that's kind of the thing. We always joke the Mets are the Mets, but even if they go out and get George Springer, is he that much better than the guys already have in center field, such as Brandon Nimmo or Michael Conforto? How many wins does George Springer give you over Michael Conforto compared to the amount of salary that each one of those makes?
Well, are you talking about wins with the buzzer or without the buzzer?
You mean, I don't know. The Mets might not care.
I just gotta clarify here.
George Springer was a pretty solid player before that whole fiasco down in Houston.
That's true. That's true.
He had a pretty good shortened season this last year. He had a fantastic 2019 as well.
Did you see that kind of a Dodger fan favorite Pedro Baez went down to Houston?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Why do you think he made that move? It was, is there something going on with him in the organization or what?
Well, so he had a little bit of injury stuff go on this last 18 months or so, but the Dodgers have so many prospects and so many guys that are going to be the Dodgers are kind of that weird team where they'll bring up somebody that's a starting pitcher and throw him in as a long reliever and have him eat up innings and get familiarized with, with Major League Baseball and that type of thing. And again, you've got so many young guys out there that Baez needs to be. I like him, but he's probably not going to get the innings that he wants, and not for the price tag that he's going to want.
Didn't they pick up a couple of? They picked up one of the Brewers' top relievers, right?
Yeah.
What was his name? I forgot.
Jackson. It escapes me now.
He was good. He was good against the Dodgers in the LCS 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That was a good pickup for them. So maybe that's what kind of triggered the Dodgers to say, we don't need you, or hey, we're not going to offer you what we want.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it Corey Nebel?
Yeah,
Nebel.
There we go.
Yeah, and but to your point, Ned, I mean, Joe Kelly was a Dodger killer when he was a Red Sox, and then he came to the Dodgers and forgot to hit the strike zone.
Yeah,
I mean, he could hit Carlos Correa, but he couldn't hit strike zone.
The best example of Joe Kelly's command is that video of him throwing in his backyard and just nailing his window 5 feet wide from where he's throwing into.
Yep, that was awesome. I got to tell you, boys, it is the funniest offseason because Manfield said, hey, we're starting spring training on time and we're going to have a 162 game season. I gotta confess, I don't see how that happens. Maybe you start spring training on time, but I don't see any way, shape, or form how we get a 162 game season in. Because even if you start on time, how many teams are going to have COVID protocol where they're going to have to push back games? And, God forbid you end up having a team like an unnamed team down in the South, maybe even South Florida, that go to places where they should not be going and they all get COVID and they end up having to cancel like 14 games, or like what the Cardinals had to do last season where they had to play 19 games in 14 days. There's
I
just
think
not enough time. I just don't know how you do it.
I think that's how they're going to punish teams. They're either going to make them play double headers or make them forfeit if they really want the 162 game season. I think baseball is going to go the route that I don't know if you noticed what the NHL is doing, where they got like the sponsorships for the divisions. They're trying to make all their money off the TV. They can't have people in the arenas. So I think the commissioner is pushing for that 162 game season because more games equals more revenue in theory for the TV packages from the TV companies.
But I also heard that they were going to start selling tickets though, and like pods of 4 or 6 or whatever else with distancing. Is that still going to happen at least later in the summer, or what are you guys hearing about that?
What I've heard about that is that they're going to let the states decide. So I know Wisconsin, the Packers had fans in their last game. The Buffalo Bills somehow had fans at their game, their playoff game the other night, which was really weird because they play in New York. But
when it's 34 below, people don't go to the game.
True.
State by state is going to be interesting because California and New York, which are your big market teams, aren't gonna be open, right?
I think MLB will lean towards the neutral site playoffs again because they can jam everyone into Texas or Florida and make that extra revenue. That's what the commissioner is all about, it seems like, with his pace of play rule changes, wanting the universal DH. He just wants, what's the saying? Offense gets the fans, defense wins games.
Yeah, offense sells tickets, defense wins games.
There you go.
Chicks dig the homers.
Chicks dig the long ball.
That's right.
Chicks dig the long ball.
Remember that commercial? That was funny.
I gotta tell you though, it was the funniest thing to watch when you're watching the Padres and the Dodgers play in Texas, and both of those stadiums were being used at the time for games. I'm thinking, all right, so if that's a neutral site why don't you send both of them there and you can just have home games?
Yeah.
I mean, but whatever, it just happens. It's going to be, I don't really know, boys, how to, like, normally this time of year, I'm thinking, okay, let's get the Super Bowl over with so we can start actually talking baseball. But I don't know what to talk about because you're seeing a lot of guys. I mean, do you guys remember, besides for last season with COVID, do you remember when we had this long before like major superstars had signed? Right? Nobody's talking about Yasiel Puig, right? He went down to Atlanta, got COVID, and then opted out. Nobody's talking about Yasiel Puig. We still don't know about Trevor Bauer. We still don't know about Justin Turner. There's a number of guys.
JT Realmuto is still unsigned as well, although the rumor is he's going back to the Phillies.
Right. But I mean, do you remember when it's been this long, when it's been this close to conceivably pitchers and catchers report in less than a month? So is Trevor Bauer gonna report? Where's he gonna report? So we'll give him a Braves jersey. Give him a Braves jersey as long as you guys take Puig again.
It might end up being that situation that happened to Craig Kimbrell a couple of years ago, where he refused to lower his price tag, so nobody signed him until he lowered his price tag. It's really kind of a game of chicken at this point. Who's going to flinch first?
But then he also runs the risk. If he doesn't sign before spring training, then he's got to go through this extended spring training, and he's going to end up losing out on some revenue too. So I mean, there has to be some sort of incentive for him to sign pretty soon, right? Or we're gonna have another one of these Dallas Keuchel situations, from 2 years ago, right? To where can't start until May 1st if they do play 162. Now, Bill, you brought up the point. If they shorten the season, let's say they shorten it and they don't start until, let's say, May 1st, and they play 120, then maybe the rules, quote unquote, the rules change a little bit as far as how the free agency is going to all work. But it's funny, because a few weeks ago we were talking about, hey, he's going to be the big chip that's going to fall, and then we're going to see everything else happen. And it's been kind of true, but there's been a flurry of activity beneath that. And you just kind of wonder if he's kind of sit back on, okay, well, this guy signed with this team, this guy signed with this team, okay, what are my options now?
Right.
And I don't know. It's just, the next couple of weeks will be interesting. What are we sitting on January 18th? So, yeah, you're right. I think you've got 26 days till you report to spring training or something like that. So for some of these clubs, especially the pitchers and catchers. So usually those are the guys that end up signing first because they're the ones that, take the long to condition themselves. So,
well, that and they've got their different styles of play and things like that. I mean, you don't just throw on a Braves jersey or a Dodgers jersey and show up at camp. There's different styles of play. You got different ballparks. You got to figure out your home ballpark, and it's just the weirdest thing. And I can't believe these guys are holding out for specific dollars. I mean, when you know that the ownership isn't going to afford it, the ownership is just going to look and go, hey, April and May are probably throwaways where we're not going to get fans in the stands. Some places in June and July, like the MLB, I mean, like the NFL has done, right? You get 10,000 people in the stands, but I mean, 10,000 people in the stands doesn't really bring you revenue because you got to clean the place, you got to have your vendors there and things like that. And so it's not going to bring you a ton of cash. So what do you do? Right.
I just remembered something about Trevor Bauer, an interesting note. The rumor was that he's not going to the Angels because he doesn't like the Angels pitching coach, Mickey Callaway, who used to be Cleveland's pitching coach.
Oh, interesting.
That they varied in philosophy. That was one of the things I was hearing on the radar, on the buzz.
This is the same guy that got ticked off when he got pulled out of a game and threw a ball over the center field fence. And he's talking about the pitching coach.
Yeah.
Oh, so many jokes.
The only thing I have to say is he better be a good clubhouse guy. Whoever ends up signing him, they're gonna have issues. They're gonna have some big issues, aren't they, guys? So I don't know. We talked about a few weeks ago about, hey, would you sign him? I'm like, sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes the talent's not worth it if the guy can't be a good, because we all know that baseball is a good team sport. I mean, obviously it's based off the individual stats, but you got to have the right 9 guys, with all the same collective goal, and they all got their own goals that they need to accomplish. But I don't know. He's just kind of off. Maybe he's just too off the wall for me. I don't know.
I would love to see a team sign him and Puig. That's a clubhouse where I just want to be a fly on the wall, right? Because those two guys
already did that. They already were on Cleveland together.
Were they on Cleveland together?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, I thought Bauer was in Cincinnati at the time.
So that explains Cleveland,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, that's true. Well, boys, this has been fun. So let's wrap up. So we're gonna go around the horn. 30 seconds, Ned. I'll start with you. Any wrap up thoughts in 30 seconds, and then Jackson, and I'll conclude.
No, I think it's just, like you said, it's going to be interesting these next couple of weeks to really kind of see what happens with the free agent market. And also, Jackson, you brought up the point about the trades. Teams are getting creative as far as that goes. But, as far as the teams that are represented here tonight, I think our teams still sit pretty well. I don't think you're going to see any more moves or any big moves or anything like that. But I think we feel confident about our teams and in the direction that they're going.
Yeah. Jackson.
I think this week is where it's really going to start heating up. Rumors that George Springer is going to decide where he's going. I think that's going to get the outfield pool moving a little bit, considering he's the top free agent. So once he signs, I think we'll see teams start to go after guys like Marcell Ozuna and so on and so forth. Just Jackie Bradley Jr. Dominoes are gonna start to fall once the big guys out of the picture and everyone knows what the price range is. I think that's what's gonna start happening.
Yeah. I agree with you. Once one or two fall, they all fall. And Ned, you bring up a good point. I think both the Braves and the Dodgers they don't need to make big splashes because they're both. I mean, the Padres are chasing uphill, right? And the Mets are chasing uphill. So it's not a huge thing. I mean, it is a long season and depends on who stays healthy and whatnot, but I don't think that there's a big issue. Personally, just from a Dodger perspective, I'd love to see JT come back. I really like what he brings, not only in the clubhouse, but on the game, on the field. He just shows talent, immense talent. So let's just hope that. But I would like to see what's going to happen. And I just think it's so awkward and so weird this year because we have another, year where we're not quite sure what's going to happen. So it's going to be just as long as we have the same world champion as we did this last year, it's fine with me. Right? 60 games, 120 games, 162 games, doesn't matter. By the way, I don't know, as a concluding comment, boys, I don't know if you saw, but MLB has a Twitter page. And so just for funsies, they put out the next 10 World Series champions.
I saw that.
Did you guys see this?
I saw it. Yeah. Very, very interesting.
The Dodgers beat the Yankees in the World Series next season. I can buy that. The Dodgers beat the Angels in 2022. So apparently there's some pitching out there that we don't know about, boys. Apparently something's going to happen in the American League West. I don't get it. I think you guys win in 4 or 5 seasons. And who did you guys beat according to their?
I think the Braves ended up beating like Toronto or something.
Toronto. That's what it was.
Weird like that.
And don't forget, in 8 years, the Orioles are gonna win the World Series. So,
will Chris Davis's contract be up before then? Is the real question.
True. Anyways, top fans out there, thank you so much for watching. For my friends Jackson and Ned, this has been a fantastic discussion again. It's fun having a small group talking about moves. These guys are phenomenal. And it's such a good time for you top fans out there. If you haven't seen it yet, please go to our website and look at the top 9 best seasons. And don't worry, I've been hearing from some of you that I missed a few of them. Don't worry, I'm getting out there and I'm going to put another article or 2 together. So that'll happen. In addition to that, go to the YouTube page, subscribe, go to the Facebook page and subscribe. We sure do appreciate you and have a great night.